Okay, so we're back at our paddle project again, and today I'm going to do the portion of the paddle that I find the most enjoyable. And what we're going to do today, or I'm going to show you what we're doing today, is we're going to shape the sides of the blade to give it a little bit of an airfoil. So first thing I want to do though is I want to consider the blade in 4 different quadrants. So there's this quadrant on this side that we're going to deal with, the quadrant on that side of the spline. Remember yesterday we talked about the spline. And then on the other side we have another quadrant here and another quadrant there. So I want to make sure that I mark those out very accurately so that I don't cross the lines. So I'm going to do what I've done in the past, and that is draw a nice straight line down the middle of the blade. So that's right down the top of the the spline. And the line that we drew last video that marked the center of the paddle blade, it's still there. So now what I'm going to work on right now in this short video is this 1/4 of the blade, okay? So from the center line over, and I'm going to keep in mind the center of the paddle blade. And then I'll just work on each other quadrant as I go. So it'll probably take me about 5 minutes to do this 1/4. So if I add that all up, 4 times 5, I end up with about 20 minutes to shape the blade, and then I would turn or go to do a little bit of sanding. So this is a spoke shave that we have at school, and they are readily available in Canadian Tire and hardware stores, and they cost a little less than $20. And for the longest time, this is what I used. But I've upgraded to one with longer handles and a finer blade with finer adjustments and so on and so forth. So I am going to show you how that works. So I just grab the 2 handles, and as I pull, you can see it start to take off shavings, and they will get larger and larger as I go. Something to keep in mind when we're doing this is we want to make our strokes from the high point of the blade to the low point. In other words, we're cutting from the outside of the blade to the inside of the blade. So from up here down to the center. If I was to draw my spoke shave this way, I would be pulling the fibers of the wood up from the center of the board, and it would tear it out. Here, when I go to do this portion, I am going to be cutting from the outside of the board, and I'm going to be drawing to the inside of the board, okay? Even though I'm going uphill a little bit, it's still the better of the 2 options. And another thing that I'm always doing is I'm never doing a stroke or more than 2 or 3 strokes in the same position. I'm always rotating the spoke shave so that I end up with a nice curve when I'm done. I'm gonna have to reposition the paddle to get right in this area here. The bench is kind of in my way. But there you go, that's this half of the blade has been shaped. I'll take a sander to just smooth it out and kind of feather off any of the high ridges. I can just feel them with my hand, but I can't see them with my eyes. But my hand is a lot more sensitive than my eye in this situation. I should point out that the two pieces of wood that were taken off when I was at the bandsaw, I will take these two pieces of wood, and I've taken them to the table saw and I've already cut them a little bit, but I'm going to move and I will glue them up at the top where the handle will be, and that will give me lots of wood at the top with the same cherry and maple and cherry alternating back and forth, and it'll make the handle look rather snazzy. So I've flipped the paddle over, and the other side is all done. So I'm going to work on this side a little bit. I'll use the Schools spoke shave, show you how it works. You'll notice that I'm going to ram the paddle into my hip. This will give it a little bit of stability so it's not going to bounce up and down. I don't want it to chatter. So the older spoke shave still does a pretty decent job. But I do like my other one better. Okay, so before I'm done for the evening, I'm going to glue these two little pieces on either side of the shaft so that I'll be able to cut my handle out on the bandsaw, and then I'll be able to shape that. So again, I'm using this Titebond 3. Label looks like that if you're ever going to buy any. It's a really good all-purpose glue. One of the things I like about it is that it's kind of a brownish color, and brown is a natural color in wood. So if any happens to be needed to fill a gap, it more or less looks like wood. As yellow doesn't look quite as nice as the brown. And while I had so much time on my hands with the COVID-19 shutdown, if you will, I refinished the top of my workbench. So I sanded it down. I used to have a bunch of spray paint splatters on it. I sanded it down and then I coated it with an epoxy coating. So the top is really glossy, which means any of this glue that squeezes out of the joint, it won't stick to this tabletop anymore. So I don't have to worry about putting anything down to protect my workshop or to protect my project from sticking. I can just glue right on top of my workbench, and it's all going to work out great. So there's a saying in woodworking, you can never have too many clamps. So I've put on 3 there for a very small piece. Unfortunately, I see way too often at school where people might have 3 clamps and they've glued together a great big board with only 3 clamps. You should really put as many clamps as you can find on your project.